Hello and welcome to Brent Library's Map Your Summer. My name is Sian Pattenden and I'm the person that illustrated and designed the maps and all the bits that you have in your packs that you can draw on or trace round, but we'll get to that. I'm going to talk about how I got to be an illustrator first, then we're going to go through the maps and any questions you may have. I'm sure that some of your librarians in the library, even your mum and dad, might know. If not, if you're very, very good, you can write down a question to one of your librarians, they might be able to get a message to me and I can answer. But for this workshop, this is recorded. You may be aware that there have been some disruptions to libraries and schools in the past few months. We all know about that. So it's a shame that I couldn't come in and see you all in person or do a workshop with real people and real pens, although these are real pens. But here we are, and this is a good enough thing, isn't it? It also means if you're really desperate, you can probably watch it again to pick up some clues about map making. So I promised that I was going to say who I am. My name is Sian, as I say, and I'm an illustrator. I'm also a writer. Sometimes I make videos and bits and pieces like that because it's quite good fun. I originally was asked to do the maps by Brent Council, who are very good people indeed, because that's one of my jobs. I make maps for councils, for libraries, for schools, for people who might want one in their home, for people who might want to give one for a gift, because I have a theory about maps. Maps are very important because they tell you, yeah, where you are, but they also are something that you can add to and you can tell your story through it. And this is the idea for these maps and the Mapping Your Summer project. Now I'm very lucky enough to have, it's glaring a bit, but you can see that I've got the pack in front of me. A lot of glare, it looks very white, but if we do that, you can sort of see Map Your Summer. So I was very lucky to be asked by Brent Council to help with the libraries and help with culture and illustrate these maps, which you can see slight glare there, but I have the pack in front of me, so I'm going to refer to that when we talk through how and what we're going to do with the maps. Maps, as we say, are very important because it's about what you put into it, and these maps are about what you all who've collected from your library and are sitting at home going, what shall I put on? It's very important to tell your story. Now this may sound strange, but I do say this during map workshops. If you're not going to tell your story, who is? Everybody is individual. Everybody has parts of their neighbourhood that they love and that they want to put on. And it might be a park. It might be somewhere where they sell pizza. It may just be the bottom of your road where you like hanging out with your friends. It may even be your front garden. Or if you've not got a front garden, someone else's front garden. The possibilities are endless. So I originally started doing maps for some councils to show where the theatres and the cinemas and the good things were. And that's how I got into it. I also sometimes write children's books and I illustrate them too. There's a children's book there in the wild. Watch it go. And I sometimes do art with oil paints, which is a bit sticky and icky and get everywhere, but that's quite good fun too. I would advise it. But the reason why I wanted to do a map thing, and especially through libraries, there are a few things. Libraries are very important, and it's been awful that they've had to shut down for a while, but they're back. I use the library a lot. It's one of those things where I want a book and I want to see what it's like before I get it. I might not get it. I don't have to buy it. I'll go to my library and I will request the book and I will borrow it and I will give it back in very good condition. I've been using the library since I was a very small child because my mum took me and my sister there. Also, we wanted to do something which would have as far and wide enough reach. The libraries are great for reading initiatives. If you want to read a lot of books over the summer, they have all that too. But they're great for getting people in to visit and to see maybe that really boring bit of the summer in the middle where there's nothing going on and you're at home and your parents may be working or whoever is looking after you may be working. They may be doing something that just isn't quite exactly what you want to do. That's where you can pick up a pencil and get a paper, get a rubber and maybe some paints and do your own thing. So we'll go through those sheets which we have designed specially, this pack especially for you to do your own thing. There is leeway to use some of the suggestions that I've put in, but there's lots of leeway. I'm sure you're familiar with the word leeway, to do your own thing. There's lots of space to draw, so we'll talk about that. What I'm going to do is first go through my kit, if you're interested what I use to start off. So let me grab. I use some very smooth paper because it doesn't bleed through. This paper we've got for the activity sets are good, and that should do, but I use something called Bristol board, which also comic book artists use, because I say sometimes a thin paper, the ink will bleed through, as it's called, if you're doing inking, not with pencil. But that's what I use to start everything off, and I start usually by drawing the main road, but you don't have to do that. So onto that paper I use my special pen. This is my special pencil, and this one is a mechanical pencil. So it's the one where you click and the very fine bit of pencil lead comes out that way. That's very good for quite specific drawing. It's easy to rub out. However, I've sometimes been known to draw just with a pencil that I found on the table or in one of those pots where all the pencils are. It doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be something that you can use that's near you and you can rub out if you have a mistake. So firstly, it goes down with pencil, and I look at a map and I draw from it. I don't usually trace too hard, because then all you've got is a copy of a map. You haven't got your own view. Some roads might be very important to some people, but there's some roads that are very important to you, and maybe you want to make the ones that are in your neighbourhood larger, the ones that go to the pizza place, the ones that go to the park, the ones where that really cute dog sits sometimes, maybe by the bus stop, you know, the one, that dog is lovely, it's all fluffy. That's why you want to sometimes have your own take on this. So that's what we do with pencils. That's what we do with our brain when we're thinking about it too. The next thing I use is pens, and these are pigment liners. They're not very expensive, you can get them from the art shop, but along with pigment liners, they're disappearing there. See, they have different widths, so you can make them a thin line, 0.05 to 0.8. That's quite thin. They're good, but they're not so necessary. You just need something with a very big sort of black line is what you need. Here is a biro. This actually looks like a really fancy, if you can see it, space biro. However, it's from a shop down the road and it was £2. You still get biros for £1. So it's not really about exactly what you use, although one can get quite finicky about it if you're familiar with the word finicky. But it's about how you use them and just having something by. I've also got a fountain pen here, which is one I bought down the road when it was in the sale, and that's quite good for making a black inky line. But pro tip, leave really inky lines to dry, otherwise they can smudge. So that's some of the kit. I'm also going to show you a bit of colour before we get onto the packs. What I usually use is black and white. I'm saying I use black and white, and maybe with a hint of colour from the pencils. So similar to pencils you might get in the pack. See, I'm funny with the background here, but I hope you understand. So those are good. So you should have pencils in the pack. That will help you out. But you can buy certain stores versions of these. This is my watercolour set. So you can see it's got quite a lot of different colours there. I think that's a 24 pan, but I might have squeezed a few more in. That's quite good, but you need a different sort of paper usually from that one. But that's quite good for splodgy colour. If you've got anything like that, or you've got a grown-up who's got anything like that around, that's quite good fun. Poster paints will work, all sorts of paints. There are lots of high street shops that you can go to there where you can get them for £2 or £3. I would just experiment, because it's not really what you're using, it's what's up here. However, having said that, there's some nice got a little travel one there. Oh, it's fading in and out. There's the travel one, which you can put in your bag. Also, I've got some highlighters. That's always quite good for showing something that you really like. So just look around. So that's some of what I would call the kit. I've got brush pens. I've got a dippy pen, but that's really messy. Here's the dippy one. I'm trying to do it over me so you can see. There's some ink, dippy pen with a very fine nib. If you're near an art shop or a stationer's, they might sell you one, but that needs a bit of supervising because it can go everywhere. But when I want to draw something with lots of movement, that's when I use a dippy pen. When I want to draw something that's a bit spodgy, that's when I use a dippy pen. Doesn't always work, not even with my advancing years. But anyway, so let's get on to the pack. As I mentioned earlier, stop me if I'm repeating myself, but we wanted to make a pack that was easy to follow and yet easy for you to take off and do your own thing and add what you want. Because what we're really interested in is inspiring people to create their own story, to create the map that they want to see. That, say your friend was doing a map next to you on the table, social distance, obviously they would come up with something very different because their interests are different than yours, and all the places they want to put are different. Why do they want to put the burger place when you want to put the pizza place? That kind of thing. So what we wanted to do is do it as an introduction, but also make it super good so that you can have your own version of a map. And it's also could be a nice record of the summer, of the places that you have been. So you don't necessarily have to fill it in all at once. You can fill it in as and when you go along. Hey, that's where we went to. That's where we went to. If you're like me and you don't really go away very much in the summer, you're a bit stuck at home because of, for whatever reason it might be, it's still good you can put your local places on. This hasn't got Devon, it hasn't got Spain, it hasn't got Scotland. It's about your local area and your land, as it were. So you could be, in a way, king or queen or whatever of your own land with this map. So Map Your Summer is what it's called. Now I'm doing this so it can be seen. How can it be seen? A bit more like that. So you see I have got it in front of me. And the first image is of the map. And this is slightly coloured in, but you will notice some of it is not coloured in. And that's the prompt. That's a prompt to say, hey, hang on, we can colour this in. Yes, there's a butterfly on the cover that says colour me in. That's another clue. But what we want to do is make sure that you know that this is a map that you can have a big deal in, that is really your map. So discover more about your neighbourhood. There's also a quiz, you see. I've been told the quiz is quite hard. When I did my research, I wanted to make it challenging, so you may have to ask a librarian or a grown-up if you need help with, for instance, when Trojan Records started in Harlesden. Trojan is a world-famous reggae record label, and I was just pleased to put that in. Anyway, so the first cover is that. The back cover is very similar, but you'll see the trees have been coloured in because it's like you've completed it. Funnily enough, when you open it up, you will realise that the back cover and the front cover, you flip them over. Oh, I've disappeared. This is so exciting. Oh, it's magic. Can you see it? You can't because of this crazy... Oh, do we just say that's magic and I'll go away? You can see that. See, live workshop, everybody. There is, on the flip side, I'll just tell you because you can't actually see it because it looks weird. There is a big, big page for you to start drawing. And that's for you to draw either something like the map of your own or lots of things to put on the map. It's a spare piece of paper. Or you could draw a portrait of Prince William and Kate. I mean, if you're so inclined. That's a lovely big piece of paper. It's on really nice quality card as well. So it's not going to wobble and be thin and suddenly someone spills orange squash down it and it's all gone horribly wrong. Unless you spill a lot of orange squash. The next bit we come to are the maps. So I mapped the east side and the west side of Brent. Thank you. I decided with the team that we were going to make them into two halves so that there's plenty of room. Depending on your area, you've got enough things to put in it. So it is. Now let me see if this is working at all. I'm not sure. I'm going to do it in a halfway. It's not working terribly well, is it? Oh, look, you've got a white piece of paper. Look, it's real though. The glare is too much, but you can see it's sort of there. That is the map. Sorry about the glare. This was an unforeseen technical thing, but you can see very closely that it is. This is for you. So on one side there is west Brent, and the other side there is east. And hopefully your place of residence sits somewhere there and you can find it. Now, some of the roads are marked. The main roads are marked, and there are some tube stations and some overground stations as well, but a lot of it is left unmarked for you to do your thing. Remember your job? Your job is to be king, queen, or otherwise of your land. And so you need to be able to have lots of space, we thought, to fill in those things. Now, you will handily notice that there are, and I say I'm not going to do this much longer because it's really making it, oh, okay, we can sit there, a fool out of me. There are libraries. We did put the libraries on. We put them in black and white though, so you can colour them, because that's where you'll have got the map. That's where, if you need help, you can go. That's where loads of really great books are. And also, there might be some cafes in those libraries and a cute dog. So there we have those maps. So that's your basis. Now, I've said you can draw on that drawing bit, but you can draw on the maps as well. So in that, whatever bit of the council of Brent that you are in, you will be able to see, you'll be able to do it. If you're not in Brent and you have decided that you will go to the library and you will get one of these library things and you'll pretend you live in Brent because Brent's actually quite a good place to be, then that's okay too. Don't worry. All right, so the next thing we get to are the 3 inserts, and these are 3 A4 pages for you to do things with. The first one, let's start with map extras. Right, I'm going to do that crazy thing. Let's see if it works. No. Oh, okay. It works a bit. Look, map extras, map extras. This is kind of a guide, a starting point, something like that, of the things that you might want to put on your map. Now, you can do lots of things with these. You could trace them on some thin paper if you've got thin paper. You could cut them out because there's nothing on the other side. See, we thought of that. There are buses, there are cars, there are some tube and rail things. If there are any that we've missed out, there's the tube and the rail logos, I believe they're called, or icons. There are 2 bus stops. Now, obviously, there are a lot more bus stops in the world. You can make some more, or if you don't like bus stops, you can ignore them. There are houses. There's a houseboat, even. There's different sorts of trees, and there's some animals. So those are absolutely all black and white, so that you can colour them in and cut them out, or trace over them and do something slightly unusual and eccentric with your own thing to show that you have a unique mind. So that's the map extras page. The next page is we're talking about, hey, we live in the city. That's great, and there are loads of shops nearby, but there's still loads of wildlife. There's also the River Brent, which is very, very long. So the next page is the wildlife page. Now, this one, it's a bit more fluid. You can colour those things in. The things being butterflies, there's a dragonfly, there's a bee, there's a pigeon, some crows, and quite a cute hedgehog. You can do that. There's also some facts about wildlife on that page. But you could also trace, or you could copy them just by eye and put them on the map. That's something else to do. You could put them on the big paper. I probably don't need to say much more. You've all got a really amazing imagination, I can tell. So that's the wildlife page. Right, we're going to experiment with trying. Yeah, you can see a bit. Wildlife page. Now, obviously, there's more wildlife than that. I couldn't fit that much in. If you were so inclined, you could write a list, maybe over the summer holidays, of all the things you see. So if you see a robin, because they're still around, if you see a swan, if maybe that you see the most beautiful, cute dog in the world, why not write a list on the back or draw them, and you could add them to the map? As I said earlier, you can make this map quite a long project and have something really amazing and frame it for September when you go back to dreaded school. And then you've got something to remind you of this lovely summer you had doing a map. You could also do a map of somewhere imaginary. I'm also quite interested in that. If you are the king, queen, or whatever of somewhere imaginary, you could do an imaginary land on some of the paper that we've given here. And that might be quite a good project too. The third A4 sheet is the quiz. The quiz says test your knowledge. And as I say, this is not the easiest quiz because I wanted to make it challenging for you guys because I know that you're very, very clever. I mean, there's a couple of you could concentrate a bit more, but we'll deal with that at another point. So we have 5 questions here of local knowledge. As we say, you could ask your friendly librarian, who will obviously not be doing anything else or stacking books or something, and we're really wanting to speak to you, so I would recommend that. They might even have a name badge on, so that you could call them by name and then they'll have to answer your question. We will prime them. You could also ask a grown-up. There's this thing called Google, where you could use another search engine, or you could look there, but that's not so much fun. But we've got questions about Watkins Folly, which is Wembley, the Brent River, which I mentioned earlier, the amazing Hindu temple that's up the road. There's also some very old place names, the Saxon or maybe even earlier place names of Kilburn, Neasden and Harlesden. And there's my favourite bit about Trojan records that I mentioned earlier. So that's the pack in itself. We have the 3 inserts, including quiz. We have the big map that's on both sides, so east or west. Now, if you're very, very clever and you dressed up in a disguise, maybe a moustache, maybe a big hat, maybe a trench coat, you went in and you got another map at some point, you had 2, A, that's probably allowed, and B, it means that you could do on one pack, one side of the borough, in the other pack, the other side, and you would have 2 posters, if not 3 or 4 if you've already decided to do more, and the imaginary map that we talked about as well. So on the other side, as you know, I mentioned this earlier, so now I'm just repeating myself. This is the back cover, which has a bit more colouring in, but shows the map as a whole. So those 2 that are in there come together in the cover there, and they're joined together for the whole borough. As I say, it's a really exciting borough, and actually you realise how many green spaces, probably even you could add some more. There's so much going on, and there may even be more things as you've seen and done things. There might be some events in parks and stuff that you could add. There's a bus there because, as we all know, sometimes the bus is the best way of travel. Sometimes it's a bit hot and sticky and horrible, but that's what we use to get around, and that's what I use to get around. There you go. With the pack, as I say, you will have had your pencils. They're really good and they should get you on your way. You don't need the expensive kit. A biro would be good, or something with quite an inky feel. So a sort of black or a dark blue ink would be good, as I showed you before, like my Space Pen, or if you've got any drawing pens. So I've got the pack there, but it doesn't have to be fancy. It's all about ideas. Also, you will have, I believe, a nice envelope to put everything in, which would be good. But you will also have at the end of it a really lovely map of your own. Some people in map workshops I've done have put poetry or just thoughts along places where they had a nice experience. So they've drawn a house or something where their house is, and nearby the gardens, or it's a park, or it's somewhere like that, they've put a memory. So it could be a memory map in that sense. Other people I know, when I've done these workshops in real life, which was quite a while ago now because of everything that happened, other people have used magazines to cut out and then put everything on. And so they've done a sort of montage, a cut-up technique, and use words from magazines. So especially for free magazines, supermarket magazines, things that come through the door, newspapers, things that are around, they're quite good to add colour or blocks of colour if you're nervous of colouring in, or you want to just add a different dimension to it. Of course, you can, it's nothing to stop you gluing bits of cotton wool for the clouds, or those funny sticks you get from craft shops, which they've got sort of lollipop sticks, but they're never really quite good enough for lollipops. You could do that, and that could be a fence. So there are lots of different things. You could also do stamping. If you've got an ink set, you could stamp and do something like that to make a repetitive pattern. That would be good. And also, I was looking at something where someone had remembered they had a flower press. You've got things, old things that you haven't used for ages. Flower press or something. You could press some flowers and leaves over the summer. You could decorate the outside, something like that. Paint them or do something like that. I've got a feeling, though, you know all this. I've got a feeling that you just want to get on, and you want me maybe just to go away, make a cup of tea, and go, phew, that was a workshop. They're quite clever, aren't they? As I say, it's very sad that I couldn't do anything in real life, as it were, but we know why, and that's complicated, and we don't want germs everywhere. It's been really, really lovely to be able to talk through the activity packs and what we had set out to do and how I came to draw them and some of the design. That's been really great because obviously it's got a lot off my chest, and hopefully not all of it's been really dull. Some of it's actually may have given you some inspiration, if possible, or just spurred on the own inspiration that you have. So thank you very much. I hope that you really get on well. Please take pics, and if there's any way you can, take pics or bring them into the library. Librarians take pictures of them. Maybe we can pick this up in September. Who knows? Maybe we can do something else. Hey, that would be good fun. All right. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you get on really well with the packs. Have a lovely, lovely summer. Bye.